Well, hi everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and I'm a little out of sorts tonight, Mr. Rayo, because can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you. This is odd. I'm just having a terrible time of it. Are you there? Talk to me. Oh, okay. I think I see what the problem is.
Hear me? Let
There.
me
Okay.
know.
There you go. You're coming. You're starting to come in.
I don't know about starting. I'm here.
This has been a weird. The last 2 days have been a weird technology nightmare for me. It's insane. I'm trying to pay a bill, and you ever do one of these things where like you do something and something completely unrelated happens at the same time?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Oh, sure. That always
so you
happens.
think that they're connected, but they aren't.
Huh.
So I've had that happen a few times over the last couple of days, and I'm trying to pay a bill, and they're telling me that my account doesn't exist. Okay, that my emails don't exist. So I'm thinking the problem is on their end, but there's always this nagging feeling in my mind that it's actually on my end. That's one of a few things that has been going on. So the other thing was I decided this morning I had things to do this morning. I had to. I went out and did some food shopping. Ran a few other errands. So normally I go for my morning walk. Usually I go out around 6 a.m. Sometimes actually a little bit earlier than that. Sometimes a little later. But to get the walk out of the way while it's still relatively cool. Well, this fool decided that you know what today I couldn't do it this morning. So it was coming up on 1 o'clock this afternoon. And I said, you know what, I'll go out for my walk. And I decided to walk over 7 miles. Okay. And while I was perfectly fine and perfectly hydrated, I took water with me and everything else. I got back, took a shower, sat down at the couch, and that was at about I don't know 10 after 3. And then the next thing I knew, it was 4:30. So I, I just got totally knocked out, and I've been recovering ever since.
And for this reason, you're completely out of sorts.
That and then a whole bunch of other technical things that are going on. That's I just mentioned that one thing, but there's actually a bunch of others, and I don't know. I guess my Gemini's in retrograde to Libra right now, and I think that's probably the reason why I'm my feng shui is just everywhere.
Well, this afternoon, I know my wife had. I think what she was planning to do is she was trying to do some work outside, and also I think she wanted to pick a few tomatoes, which are coming out rather nicely. And all of a sudden, along about 4 o'clock, I hear this scream out there, outside and both on our intercom. I say, what's going on? And I look outside, and it is pouring. Yeah, I mean, the rain was coming down on the message board on the weather station. It flashes whenever it rains very hard. It's raining cats and dogs. It was raining cats and dogs.
Really,
We
it,
picked up almost a tenth of an inch. It wasn't all that much in terms of overall rain, but the fact that it lasted 5 minutes, and then of course I looked at the radar. The radar is 98.7% clear of any precip. The one area where there was a little dot of very localized rain and shower activity was right over Moa's house. And
well, my weather station around 10:30 this morning that I have, I get a message. I get a notification on my phone saying that it's raining on outside on my weather station, and it wasn't. So it was a little bizarre. It's never told me before that it was raining. So suddenly it's telling me that it's. See, that's another thing that happened today. It's just there's too much strange stuff going on, and I'm not liking it. I need some normalcy. I need
yeah,
I need I need a sense of normalcy here to set in. So
well,
we have a few things going on. We have flash flood watches already up for parts of New Jersey, Southeast PA, down into Maryland, Delaware, Northeastern Virginia. Preemptive for Thursday because the ground there, they've had between Faye and in particular Isaias and whatever other thunderstorms that have been running around after that in the days that followed. Uh, they've had so much rain, the ground is so saturated that if they get into any kind of rain on Thursday into Friday, it's going to be a flooding problem there. We also have a new Tropical Depression 11, which will, I think it'll probably become a tropical storm, even though I think its future is rather dubious.
Well, this is the second time that Josephine has had a shot to make it onto the map. The first time we had a tropical depression, I believe, and they were indicating that might, however briefly, become a tropical storm. Never did. That
Oh,
was the
that
one
was
that
that
was off
tiny
of
one at the
Africa.
Cabo Verde Islands.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I just brought the satellite up, the tropical Atlantic. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe.
No, I'm just going to say that now we have a second occasion where we might see Josephine get christened, but it does. At the moment, it doesn't look like the greatest thing in the world, but if it does get christened, it'll probably be the earliest that we've ever had a J storm.
Yeah, it would be. We have actually until August 24th to get the J storm to keep that to the record-breaking streak against 2005 continuing. So today's the 11th, so we have 13 days to get a named tropical storm to get to the J storm, and shortly after that would be the K storm. So they're going to have to start coming fast and furious again. Uh, One of the things I would just point, everything here, that I looked at it. If you look at the loop, you see the wave there in the central tropical Atlantic. It's on the smallish side, and I think that has to do with the fact that there is a large amount of dry air in the tropical Atlantic. You'll also see there's another wave that's moving off the African coast behind it. Uh, the thing is, we've seen a couple of systems, Gonzalo for one, that kind of formed against all odds. And that was a smallish system. Oftentimes, these small systems sort of revel inside their own environment, and they don't they keep the negative influences of dry air and shear out of the way for as long as they can. So I think that since everything wants to spin up this year, it wouldn't shock me at all if this were to become a tropical storm. But between the dry air to the north, if it manages to survive through that, by the time it approaches the northern Leeward Islands, the upper air southwesterly winds are going to be very strong and very hostile, and that should take it apart. I say should because we had the same thing with Isaias for Florida early on, showing all this southwest wind shear, and that turned out to be somewhat bogus. So I kind of expect this not to be a problem, but at the same time, I've got the door open just in case it winds up outperforming.
Well, they got between 60 and 72 hours. The storm reaching it would be a tropical storm, and the storm would reach 50-mile-per-hour winds, and then it starts to diminish some. By 120 hours, it's down to 40 miles per hour. And they're talking about this system, Joe, at least on the track passing to the north of the Leeward Islands. It'll be interesting to see, where this ultimately ends up. Hopefully, it'll make the curve or turn before it has any threat to the United States. Maybe, you think about a mental extrapolation. This might be one where it makes the curve and turns and ends up somewhere between the U.S. mainland and Bermuda, something along those lines. And now we're talking about something, maybe about the earlier middle part of next week. So plenty of time to watch and monitor and see where this ultimately goes.
All right, I'll bring up the Hurricane Center maps up in a little bit. Just want to let's bring up the radar. I'll bring up the full U.S. radar tonight, and there's not a whole lot going on in the Northeast, but there is stuff going on in parts of Arkansas and Missouri, Joe. That's the setup for the next system that is going to be the coming here on Thursday. We've got a cold front and we've got a wave to deal with.
Right. And it has nothing to do, a lot of people have been asking about the derecho yesterday that ran through the Midwest. It's how ironic is this that a week ago we were in the throes of power outages and, tremendous damage and whatever. And here we are a week later, and another part of the country is going through basically the same thing, although not because of a tropical cyclone, but because of an unusual convective system. Again, the second time we've seen this year a significant derecho adversely affect parts of the United States. Of course, we all remember a few months ago we had the derecho that crossed through southeast Pennsylvania, central and southern New Jersey, adversely affected the Philadelphia area. And now here we go again. And this one looked like it was in the vicinity of Chicago. But as we see on the radar that you have on the screen now, Joe, that's pretty well gone. And what we're watching now is a rather broad cluster of showers and embedded storms over lower Missouri and also northern and central Arkansas.
While I'm taking care of some technical issues, can elaborate if you would on the state of the Perseids tonight.
Well, the Perseid meteor shower indeed is going to be reaching its peak tonight. It will not be a spectacular, unbelievable spectacle because people, when they hear there's a meteor shower, they immediately mentally visualize shooting stars, like they're coming out of a water sprinkler. That's not the case. Normally, if you step outside and you're in a nice dark area and you stay out long enough, you might see 3 or 4 shooting stars in the course of an hour. That's about one every 15 or 20 minutes. During a quote shower, you could see quite a bit more in a relatively short interval of time. And there's a moon out there tonight, Joe. We have a last quarter or half moon that'll appear over the horizon beginning around midnight, and the light of the moon will kind of squelch some of the fainter streaks. But I think if you're in a nice dark area, far from any bright lights, and you have a lot of visibility, you don't have a lot of tall obstructions by trees or buildings, you might pick up anywhere from 15 to 30 shooting stars an hour before the moon rises around midnight. And even if you just see a few, that's kind of exciting. And every once in a great while, the Perseids have been known to produce what are called fireball meteors or even bolides. These are meteors that streak across the sky, and then at the end, they kind of pop like a little strobe or flash bulb, and sometimes hang a incandescent trail for a few seconds. You see one of those, and that makes your entire evening all the worthwhile. So the peak is tonight. Take a look if you after dark. Hopefully there won't be too many high or mid-level clouds in the way. And after 10 o'clock to about moonrise around midnight or so, again you could be entertained by some of these celestial streakers.
Got a nice crowd out tonight, Joe. 103 viewers so far, which is pretty good for a night where there isn't a whole lot happening. But let's set up what's going on. I'm going to bring up tonight's surface map, and we do actually have a cold front that is approaching. But the front, at least Joe, on the northern end, doesn't have much to. In spite of the fact, you would think with all the tropical air that we've have and these dew points that are off the wall up in the 70-degree range, you would think we'd be able to trigger off at least some scattered activity as opposed to
Right.
just isolated activity. But again, looking at what the radar showed with this front, there really isn't much with it. It's after it goes by and stalls that it becomes problematic.
It does. And there are some signs, some signals that perhaps over the upcoming weekend, that front will eventually sag far enough south to allow for a high pressure system to build over upstate New York and New England, provide us with northeasterly winds, and actually may lower the dew points to a relatively acceptable level. Um,
And also keep the temperatures in check.
That's right. Well, I saw, I don't know if you took a look, Joe, on the GFS X, the extended GFS. They had some ridiculously, I couldn't buy into this. I think for White Plains, for example, they had a high temperature, I think it is Saturday or Sunday, they had high temperatures of around 70 or in the low 70s. I couldn't buy into that.
The only way that happens is if it's a completely overcast day and you've got a northeast, more of an east northeast wind where you're getting low clouds and maybe some ocean drizzle that comes in. That's about the only way that you would get your temperatures not to get much above the low 70s.
Right. And I don't think we're going to have that kind of a day on Saturday or Sunday. I think at the very least we're going to have sunny to partly cloudy skies both days, and temperatures close to 80, and maybe dew point temperatures hovering somewhere in the low 60s or maybe even near
Well,
60.
it
Now,
may also be one of those instances, at least for you, up you where you are. The further north that you go from the coast, you probably stand a better chance of getting that some drier air. I don't know if that's going to be the case from say New York City south. Those areas may wind up sitting in clouds all day if the front doesn't sag far enough south.
yeah,
It's a little tricky.
what I was about to say was that, you speak of, or I speak of like mid and low 60s for dew points, and you say, well, that's still muggy, isn't it? Yeah, it's still muggy, but again, what we have been accustomed to this summer are dew points that are at or even above 70. So even if you drop the dew points down into the mid or low 60s, yeah, by normal status, that's still muggy or humid, but it's nowhere near where we've been, and it's actually probably would be felt as an improvement. And so it will not be, a terrible situation if we remain in the low 60s. But again, an improvement over what we've seen over recent days.
Folks, I have Joe. I swear, things are happening to me tonight. Everything is disappearing. Maps are disappearing. All the websites that I had opened up just disappeared. I am just I'm being haunted. Something's haunting me tonight. I don't know what it is. Very
I know what it
strange.
is. It's that spider that you took a picture of and put on your Facebook
Oh,
page.
Mrs. Spot, she's still there. She when I got up this morning, I was a little bit after 5, and I went and looked, and she had just finished off an entire daddy long legs, and she had a couple of other flies that were wrapped up. I did her a favor last night. I left the porch light on to attract the bugs into her web, so she had a total feast. Now she spent the whole day inside the door frame on the edge of her web. So now, as soon as it gets dark, she's going to get busy again. So I'm gonna be a very cooperative person with her and just turn the light back on so she could have a light lunch.
Right.
I got the satellite up and the U.S. satellite. Let's see if this one winds up disappearing on me. Some blow up storms going on in the southeast at the moment and over Florida, and you can also see what we showed you before on the radar with the showers that are breaking out in the Mississippi Valley, and that of course is going to be coming after the front goes by. So we've got to get this front through tomorrow, which is uh, not going to do very much. Then it's going to stall out, and then we're going to have a couple of waves that are going to be moving along it. So let's take a look at that. By the way, I just want to show everybody the difference. I got the GFS up, and when you look at this, and this is for this evening, you have to be very careful whenever you use the models. This is you have choices on tropical tidbits. This particular one gives you the rate of precipitation for a 6 hour period. This is not what the radar is supposed to look like, because you look at the radar, and I'll bring that up again. So if we look at the radar and you take a look, I mean, in terms of what's going on in the middle Mississippi Valley and the southeastern Florida, and then you see what's going on in the northeast. There's actually a line of storms up in upstate New York, but
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry.
what's
I'm
that?
just looking at the chat board, and Mrs. Rayo just commented on your commentary on the spider. She said, "This is gross. Just whack that thing and get
I
rid of it."
will not. No, I will not. I absolutely will. Spiders are really, they're just cool creatures, and they eat all those other nasty insects that nobody really likes.
Right.
So they're doing their job. I will not whack the spider. I'm sure there's a 12-step program for people like you, Mrs. Rayo, that go around arbitrarily killing insects. I'm letting nature take its course. Anyhow, you look at this and then you look at that and you say, well, how come it's so off? No, this is actually precipitation rate. You want to take a look at the radar part of this, and that option is there on precip moisture, and that actually matches up pretty well. There's not a whole lot going on. And moving forward through tomorrow, of course, our front weekly gets through. It's right about there, and you can see there's this little wave that's in western North Carolina, and that's going to start moving northeastward, and it brings up some rain during the day on Thursday. Joe has it down southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey to about Long Island. Then it kind of dries up, and then you get some more that forms during the day Friday. There's a second, more important wave that develops on that front. And it looks like we'll probably get into some rain later Friday night, and even into a good part of Saturday if this is right. Poor Sal Blandino must be just beside himself right now. And as you said, now the thing to sun is that high that's sitting in New Brunswick. Is it going to be able to suppress all this southward? I don't know. I'm not so sure that it will.
Well, I bought into it simply because, those of you who were on last night, I was so depressed last night, commenting that there didn't seem to be any sign whatsoever of any break, especially in the humidity. So I'm kind of hoping, and I'm basing this now on the 12Z run. We're looking at the run from 18Z, which tends to sometimes differ from the primary or 12Z run. But I'm kind of hoping, Joe. I got my fingers crossed because we need a break. I mean,
No, we do. The humidity's been too
it
much.
has been the summer of humidity
Yeah, it's too
out there.
much. It's too much.
Yeah,
Well, the way we'll get that break is if we can get that northern jet stream to come down far enough south and bring down what should be soon enough. The air masses coming out of Canada will be getting cooler and cooler. The pattern has been unchanged for much of the summer, and one of the things that's been happening, is you get these sort of little renegade short waves that are at the bottom of the base of that flow from Canada. And here's one for later this week. And this is the problem with regards to the rainfall that's being forecast for later Thursday and then on and off into the weekend, is that shortwave just kind of hangs out there and actually amplifies a bit going into Saturday and Sunday. And then another one drops down from the Great Lakes. Now, this is one thing I want to just, I talked about this yesterday, Joe, but I think it's really important. This is the second time that we're going to see what looks like a rather anomalous deep trough running from the Great Lakes down into the Gulf states. Okay, this is something that you don't really see very often in August. You might see it later in September. You'll definitely see these things in October, but to see it, we saw it with the tropical storm with Isaias, is the reason that's why it came up the East Coast. This is actually a very similar setup. So if we do wind up getting Josephine out in the Atlantic, it better weaken, because the the way the opening is up, it would probably wind up trying to get close to the East Coast. I'm not trying to start any panic, but what I want to illustrate, the important part of this is the persistent the nature of the pattern continuing to drop these troughs down from the Great Lakes down toward the Gulf of Mexico. And this is going to become a more important problem if we wind up getting tropical systems coming in the Southwest Atlantic and we keep getting these troughs dropping in like this. It wouldn't be a shocker to have a third tropical system at some point heading up the East Coast if that pattern were to hold. I'm just amazed that, you know, I'm amazed that I'm not amazed, because I know things tend to rhyme in a given season. And this seems to be the pattern we're in, where we are getting these troughs that are dropping into the eastern part of the United States. And that could be important down the road.
right, right. And that's basically. I want to tip my cap to Captain Kirk, who we had on as a guest from Weather Trends 360, who back well before the beginning of the hurricane season was advising everyone that this was going to be an unusually active season, and that the main zone that he was concerned about was along the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, including New England coastline. And good grief, we've already seen, as we just noted, Joe, two tropical cyclones already
Yeah, he's
occurring.
2 for 2, and
And he may have underplayed this. He was calling for 20 possible named storms, and here we are on a record-breaking pace to possibly be the all-time with even breaking 2005 as a
well,
record.
it would have to stay at a record-breaking pace right through November into December, and the odds would favor, even if it stays busy into October, that it would tend to shut off. But hey, everything wants to spin up. In the longer term, That trough kind of drops back southwestward, and the ridge builds back off the southeast coast of the United States in the longer time frame, going into the last 10 days of the month. And you kind of have a ridge in the southeast, which would bring some rather impressive heat and humidity for the southeastern part of the United States if this is correct. But we're still, again, even if that is the case, we still have, and there's no guarantee that it's going to look like this, but we still have this persistent flow going west to east, just south of the Canadian border across the U.S. And when we get closer, maybe there'll be some shortwave troughs that'll be dropping southward instead of that ridge that's off the southeast coast. Now, I'm going to switch. We're going to do the tropics again. I just want to show really quick before I, wind up blowing up my computer the way things are going right now. I'll bring up the North Atlantic just to show you folks what the issues are. And the first thing is the fact that this tropical system has to endure is a ton of dry air that lies to the north, and it's been the case for the last week or so. Here we are, Tuesday, August 11th. You see that 1,008 low. That is Tropical Depression 11 right here. This, in the darker brown, that's all dry air. Now, it's in its own little moist environment, but this is not what we saw back a week with when Isaias was forming. There was the area down in the tropical Atlantic and back over to the islands was fairly moist. But that this dry air, if it manages to hold with the dry air, when it gets to the north of the Leeward Islands, you see how the GFS just makes it disappear, and so do the other global models. And the reason for that is, as we mentioned earlier, when we look at the wind shear that's going on, the upper level winds are just going to be downright hostile in the northeastern Caribbean. Very, very strong westerly winds, west and west southwest winds here going over the top of the system, which just will basically rip it apart. I'd be shocked if it wound up surviving this, if it's real. And I just want to caution that we've seen already a couple of instances where the models have not handled that part of the equation well in the longer term regarding the shear and some of these tropical systems. So just kind of something to pay attention to. See, one of the things that happened earlier, Joe, is I lost all my maps.
Oh,
I'm not happy. I have to find them.
I'm sorry.
Okay, there's one. I don't know how I did this. I made them all disappear. And here is the third. Oh, it's just been one of those days. Look, and they all disappeared again.
It's kind of like when we get a message from the chairman, and we see it, and then an hour later it's disappeared. You don't know where it went.
I look. This is. Oh, hold on. 1, 2, 3. Yay! I got it all back. You see what I go through here, Joe? I have to producing the show, all the technical stuff. It's so almost every night it's pretty smooth. I got it all in my head what I'm going to do, and all it takes is I just one slip of my hand, one wrong click, and we're just in oblivion.
I don't know if he's addressing you or me or whoever, but Robert Brown on the chat board says you need a vacation.
I'll say. No, I that walk today that I did really just kind of took it all out of me. That I think it just I was sitting up after I woke up, and I just thought I just really I have to be honest, Joe. I didn't really feel like doing the show tonight based on how I felt. But then I had my coffee and I got better. And it's nothing personal. It's just that
I understand.
I made bad choices today, Joe. I made bad choices. So Do you have any? Do you have the chairman's questions for me tonight?
No,
You
I don't
don't.
have any. He did not
Okay.
send any.
Let me see if I have any. No, I don't have any either. So I hope he's all right. I don't know. Is he on the chat board tonight?
I did not see him tonight, so that
Okay,
may.
so something must be up. He's
Oh,
probably
did
out.
he say Tuesdays and Thursdays is his delivery nights, or
Yeah, he might be on delivery, so we wish him well and stay safe.
yeah,
David Rico, I'm not having a senior moment. I'm having a senior life lately. Okay, just so we're clear, this was not a moment today. This was an entire lifetime. The way it's felt. Oh God, and yeah, I'm supposed to be working myself. But Robert Brown just said I'm retired. I'm not supposed to be working myself into a frenzy. Yeah, well, you're right. Uh, yeah, no, I can't call out. Mark G said, this is one thing, Joe. When we're doing what we're doing, you can't call out sick.
that's
There's
right.
nobody, you're it. You can't you can't call out sick when you're doing all your own stuff. Uh,
24/7, yeah. Although I remember, let me see if I can remember precise. It was when I was doing the forecast for one of the on-camera or one of the talent at News 12 Long Island. I will not mention that person's name. And when it came time for me to take a vacation, I had a problem because I didn't have anybody as a backup. I think I got Neil Avignano. There's a name from the distant
I haven't
past.
talked to Neil in ages. I hope he's doing
I got
well,
him to do it. So you just got to get somebody to do what you do,
which is doo. Yes,
and
you had it right the first time.
yeah, exactly. Oh
Frank
well.
Riggio says I should check out Insectropolis in Toms River, New Jersey, if I like insects. Well, I'm not crazy about insects, but I've spent so much time with David Attenborough on the BBC watching the Planet Earth nature series uh, and seeing some of the most amazing creatures that are around, and some of them are spiders, and they are. Some of them are quite amazing. I met.
Oh, you'd be happy. Keep talking. I'm going to show you what my son. It
Well,
came some days after my birthday, but my son got me a birthday gift. I
okay.
want to show it to you.
While he's doing that, and I mentioned this last night, but just in case you missed it, if you want to take a look at it, just go to YouTube and Google Porsche Spider. Porsche like the car, Porshe, uh, Spider. It is the most incredible spider out there. You'd have a field day just watching the short clips on that. Oh
You ready
God.
for this?
Yes.
Take a look.
Oh, you got a fishing rod.
He got me a fishing rod.
What
He
kind
wants
is it? I can't see. What is it? What's the brand?
uh, Zebco.
Oh, very good.
Zebco 202 telescopic.
Well, now
Easy.
here's the question: is Mrs. Rayo going to allow you to fish?
I'm sure she will. See, the problem here is that if I catch something and I bring it home, I don't think she's ever filleted a fish before or ever done
You know
something.
what? When when I've gone saltwater fishing, if I go out with my friend Phil, when we went out and got porgies, or the time I went out with George Kasdan in the Hamptons and went out and we and got some fluke, which was terrific. Yeah, those you can actually, Joe. I take what I with the saltwater stuff. There's a local fish market that you could just bring your whatever you've caught in there, and they will clean it for you. You just give them a tip, you give them a few dollars tip, and they'll
Yeah.
clean the fish for you and everything else. So
Well,
you might want to do that. Ask your local, go to a local fish market and see if they would do that for you.
well, you see, here's the problem. The problem is that the only place we could fish in the immediate area is Lake Oscawana, which the large preponderance of that lake is filled with sunnies, which really are not a fish that
Yeah,
you
you want to
want
at
to.
least you want to at least have some fun and can go after some bass. But
Well, there are
and do what I do, just catch and release.
there are some largemouth bass, although they're few and far between. Again, mainly populated by sunnies. Now, the thing I wanted to do, I suggested to him, although I really don't know where we could go. When I was a very young boy, I used to go fishing at Atlantic Beach near the Atlantic Beach Bridge.
Hmm.
Reynolds Channels is well known for having a variety of flounder, fluke, and also coming up now, right about now into September, snapper season. I love fishing for snappers.
Yeah, there is there's a limit. I used to have fun too as a kid fishing for snappers. Yeah, there's a limit to how many you can catch and take home, and just make sure you have your marine license, which is actually free. If you go on the New York State DEC website, the marine license is free. If you get the freshwater license is $25. I actually, in fact, today I went to Walmart and renewed my freshwater license because the DEC website was down. So you can go to Walmart, Dick's Sporting Goods. Most of them you could do your fishing. You get your fishing license there.
See, this I'll tell you how long it's been since I've done any snapper fishing. I remember a place right at the foot of the Atlantic Beach Bridge called Hennings, and I actually looked them up, couldn't find them, found a Facebook page where somebody made an allusion to Hennings and showed some pictures from the 1960s and 50s and saying, yeah, I remember Hennings. So obviously Hennings is not around anymore. And there were also places near the Atlantic Beach Bridge. I don't know though if you could just go to some place where the water is and just you have your
Yeah,
license,
you sure you
just
can.
toss your line out and
Sure you
just
can. There's all you just have to. There's all sorts of spots you can go to uh, that are not necessarily advertised. But just make sure you get your marine and your freshwater fishing license.
right.
It's the $25 is well spent because the DEC does in New York anyway does a really good job of or tries to do. They don't have a big staff, but uh, the fishing areas, it's great when you go there and you find that they're clean, and whoever was there before you cleaned up the mess. But there are times when you go and some people just seem to think that it's perfectly okay to just strew their garbage all over the place and just leave it there. The DEC also enforces rules regarding fishing, hooks. Uh, you're trying to catch a snapper. You're not going to use a three-prong shark hook in order to do it. It's about it's about keeping the fish, keeping enough fish there for everybody so that everybody can have a good time and keeping
I
the
probably would
environment
not.
clean.
I would probably just for the fun of it, just to get that feel in the rod again. But
Why don't you
gee,
go to the what is it, the Cross River? Was it the Cross River Dam in
well,
Katona?
this just got dropped on me in the last couple of days. I haven't even got.
Yeah,
I didn't give it much thought
I
about it.
think
I,
if I remember correctly, there's very good bass fishing if you go there to the Katona. What is it? The dam in Katona?
you mean like Croton Point or
No,
or
when you go up 684, there's an exit on 6884. I think it's called the Cross River Dam,
uh-huh.
and there's very good bass fishing there,
Hmm.
and that's not that far from you.
No, it's not. I said to him, when he gave me this, I said, "Gee, it's too bad you didn't give me an advance notice here, because I used to enjoy using a spinning reel. This is not a spinning reel. This is like
Let me see.
self-contained, but
So just get yourself your own, buy a spinner.
by a spinner,
Buy a spinner. Timothy Veltman, no treble hooks. No treble hooks, Timothy.
right?
Not only do I use, by the way, not only do I use just single hooks, but I actually crush the barb on it to make it a challenge so that the fish could actually slide off the hook if he could figure out a way. So I make it challenging for me. And when you go upstate New York, I've gone salmon fishing in upstate New York a few times, and you're trying to catch these 20, 25 pound fish with single hooks where the you crush the barbs are crushed down, so the fish can very easily slide off of it, and it makes it a much um, a much more of a challenge in order to land one of those things because it ain't easy.
Alan Bick, 65, wants to know if we have remarked, and obviously we have not, on the passing of Dick Goddard, who was on-air Cleveland meteorologist in Cleveland for 55 years. He
Wow.
did local 60s TV with Tim Conway and Goulardi, 1961 to 2016, 55 years, Joe.
What a
I mean,
career.
that surpasses Dr. Frank Field and uh, Tex Antoine, obviously, whatever.
Yeah.
55, that's half a century.
That is terrific. That's quite an accomplishment to last that long in television. Uh,
Yeah,
a little bit easier to do outside of the New York City. Not that it's easy. It's not really easy to do. That's the wrong word. But he was an institution in Cleveland. I don't know that much about him, but he did. He's definitely had quite a career, and it's a shame and very sad to hear.
yeah, yeah. Joe DiNardo was another legend. He was in Philadelphia, not Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh, and he passed away a few years ago. And he had been doing it for a good long time as well. It's always sad when you see somebody who you in 55 years you literally like grew up with the guy. I'm sure, and Cleveland weather I'm sure will not be anything now that he has passed. So sad news, but we salute him for over a half a century of work in front of the camera.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see. David Scott says. He says, this is for you, Joe. David Scott says he belongs to a beach club adjacent to the Atlantic Beach Bridge, Silver Point Beach Club. And last weekend we saw guys catching stingrays and sand sharks right on the beach. So why
Wow.
don't you make a day of it and head down over to the the Atlantic Beach Bridge.
The Atlantic Beach Bridge always served as, while we were waiting to, catch something, because that bridge was constantly going up and down, up and down. The sailboats
Uh
with their
huh.
little horns, you know, and every once in a great while you'd get what we call a Paragon or a Texaco tanker, which you had the big, you sometimes depending upon the angle you couldn't see it on the approach, but if you heard it, you said, "Uh-oh, bridge is going up soon." And that was our one form of entertainment other than listening to the radio when we were fishing back in the day. Now you're making me think back to over a
Right.
half a century ago.
Digger 310. Thanks for reminding me. It's the Katona Dam, and if you go, Joe, if you go east on Route 35, it brings you
Yeah,
to Cross River. There's a lot of fishing along there, especially in Cross River, which is
right.
Digger's neck of the woods. So you have a place right nearby that has some good fishing. So you should investigate.
I will investigate. Hey, but I know you know, how I won't say fanatical, but how much you're into fishing. So I mean, maybe this gives me
Do you know
an
I haven't gone once all year.
wow.
I haven't. I just there are times where I love going and I'll go every other day or every day, and then there are times where I just don't want to even look at my fishing pole. And I've been in one of those moods for a while. I think part of it has to do with just the overall environment that we're in, with the way things have been the last number of months with the quarantine, the COVID, and everything else. I actually was supposed to go tomorrow morning with my buddy Phil. We were going to go hit Blydenburg Park on Long Island and do a little bass fishing tomorrow morning, but he had to push it back a day. So maybe we're going to go Thursday morning, which I think would be better because I'd rather go on a day where there's clouds around and not on a day where it winds up getting very hot very quickly because I don't want to be out there in the heat and humidity. I just don't.
Right.
All right, let's put it into this tonight. Thanks so much. A nice crowd tonight. Well over 100 people throughout the live stream for a night where there isn't too much going on. That's a good thing, and we appreciate it. Thank you for being here. The show will be on in a podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and four. I think we're on 7 different podcast platforms that are out there. So you should be able to find us if you want to listen to the show rather than watch it. And Joe and I will be back tomorrow night, the same time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So do join back in tomorrow.
I can hardly wait on the latest spider update.
Yes, I had to wait till dark, till it's dark enough that I can take a picture of it because it doesn't come out when the sun's out. It doesn't come out very well. But once it gets dark, I'll get a nice shot of Mrs. Spider. We'll see what she's up to.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night, Joe. Good night, everybody.